Welcome to our telecast. In today's telecast, we're going to talk to you a title called Part 3, The Year of the Antichrist. Let us begin and write the points down. Some of the points I've given you in the past, but nevertheless, write the points down. PowerPoint number 1, you simply write the actual. PowerPoint number 2, write down the time. PowerPoint number 3, you simply write down Crackdown. PowerPoint number 4, simply write down the global collapse. So we're going to focus on these 4 points. And what I want to do is I'm going to basically talk and speak and share concerning the global events that are about to happen. And I know that we have just witnessed an election. But I want you to keep in mind and bear in mind that I have said over and over that there is no reversal. And that God is about to bring what he has shown me just now. The establishment. The establishment of a new world order. And not only a new world order, but the Roman Empire. And also the coming peace treaty. And I will talk about that also. Because many have put their hopes on certain politicians and on politics. And what I have said over and over, there is only one that has full control and total control and will have the final say, and that's God himself. But let me go to PowerPoint number 1, the actual. And the reason I had you write that down is because you're going to see the actual fact come to reality. And the reason I say that is because there are many that are hoping that things will turn around, and some have already come out and talk about that we're going to experience years of prosperity. And I want to make this very clear. The grace of God is about to shut that down real quickly. Now, I'm not saying that he will not shower his people with his blessing. I'm talking about that they're talking about that we're going to go back to these golden years. And I want to make this very clear, that the Antichrist, it's about to come on the world stage. But the Lord said, fret not, fear not, don't be afraid, because God will raise up a standard. And remember that the church will be removed out of the earth in the removal, and we're going to go up in the rapture. But today believers and people around the world are embracing for when Donald Trump takes over beginning January 20. That's the day of inauguration. And he has made great promises to not only our nation and also to the people around the world, and made promises especially to our nation. And what I want to say is this, that I am going to do a title in which I have spoken over and over, that I have said since 2020, that we will enter a grace period in a new era, where I said over and over that we're going to experience the Trump revolution and everything being revolutionized. And I have said over and over that Pharaoh was God's middleman to set the whole thing up for Joseph. And what I'm saying here is that in 2024, in going into 2025, Donald J. Trump, I said over and over, it's God's middleman to bring about the greatest revolution and everything being revolutionized. And I have said we're entering a new era, a new time on earth, and the establishment of a one world government, a one world system. Now, when I say the time, because I've always spoken concerning the time and seasons, and I have said over and over that there are many Bible prophecy teachers, especially some out in Texas, that are already jumping the wagon, talking about that they're glad that we're about to experience prosperity season, and there's not going to be any censorship, and we're not going to experience this lockdown and crackdown. And what I want to say is that God is about to deliver the crackdown. And God is not only going to bring about an overwhelming crackdown, God's going to crack down on the nations and world leaders and world power and world government. And also that includes the U.S. and of course, even during Trump's time when he takes office in January of 2025. And here's the reason why. Because many have put their hopes on politics and a politician. And God has made it very clear that there is not a single man, that includes Donald Trump, that will reverse anything. And they're talking about that we're going into these golden years. And what I want to make this very clear, what we're about to see is Revelation 6 verse 1, the rider on that white horse. And I also want to make this very clear. I have said over and over for the last several years, since 2020, in 2021, in 2022, in 2023, and I'm going to say it once again and probably for the final time. I have said over and over that the grace of God has made it very clear when it comes to Trump. And I want to make this very clear that this telecast is not on Trump. This telecast is about understanding the time and season, which was PowerPoint number 2. The actual and the time in the crackdown. And I have said that the Lord is going to bring about the final mobilization, and he's already started that. And the grace of God is going to mobilize the hearts of world leaders, and you're going to see a nuclear arms race. I want to make that very clear, because what you're going to see is that rider on that white horse, and you're going to need to listen to the November 2nd, 2024, 9:57 a.m. prophecy, where God spoke very clear. And we're living in a polarized world. Not only in a polarized world, but we're living in a time where you're beginning to see that there's so many things being fulfilled, because I said everything will accelerate. And God has been talking concerning the sequence. But what God has been saying that was going to break out somewhere in the near future is World War III. Another thing, and I don't want to get ahead of myself when it comes to when I speak concerning Trump's revolution and the revolutionizing moment, because there is going to come, and Trump's going to fulfill this, there's going to be a global trade war and a global collapse. Now keep that in mind, and there's going to be a peace treaty. So for PowerPoint number 1, the actual. PowerPoint number 2, the time. PowerPoint number 3, the crackdown. And I already said PowerPoint number 4 is a global collapse. And the Antichrist and everything going into a whole different level. And let me say this again. Remember that I did the telecast not too long ago. I believe it was God's prophecy, the global Middle East, that I believe that the grace of God spoke concerning that the Lord showed me the face of Pope Francis. Remember? The grace of God did that about 2 weeks ago. Now, since then, and since the times that I've been overseas, and since the time I came back, the Lord has been very clear that the grace of God just said to me something, that he is about to shut the mouth of the lion. And I believe that the grace of God is saying that there are, and I have said this over, there are leaders in the body of Christ manipulating the moment, manipulating the situation, putting their hopes where their hopes should not be put in, because hope will not disappoint you. And the only one that will not disappoint you is God himself. So I want to talk about and define the definition of this, where I said the enticing moment. Let me break down the meaning of enticing. 1, it means attracting. 2, it means tempting or drawing. Then the third thing it means bringing people in, enticing, producing, desires to attract. Let me go back, take my time, and give you the points to what the definition of enticing in this enticing moment. It's a seducing moment, and the greatest deception that Satan with the Antichrist and the false prophet will anchor together, okay, in this biblical ancient moment in time, in civilization. What I want to do is go back to the definition of enticing. And 1 is having the effects of, write that down, having the effects of attracting. 2, tempting or drawing. And 3, drawing people in. And enticing produces desire to attract. Now, we are entering a moment where you can say, if you remember the movie called Fatal Attraction, we're entering a very fatal moment on the earth where everything is going to go dark, because that's what the Lord opened the window, just showed me. Everything dark, pitch black. And there have been some things that have been said lately concerning the October 7, 2024 thing that happened between Israel and Hamas. And God spoke that months before it happened. As a matter of fact, God spoke some things back in October of 2022. And also in Final Hours Part 5, Final Hours Part 6, and Final Hour Part 7, I will encourage you to go listen. Now, God spoke concerning the Israel-Hamas war. And God is God. God was going to bring that, and that was going to come to pass, including the Black Sea, battle between the Russians and Ukraine. And you see, God speaks, and when God speaks, there's not a single man that on this earth, in heaven or earth, not a beast, not even Satan or Lucifer or the false prophet or the Antichrist, that can contradict or go about saying that would have never happened if they were in office or if they were in charge or in total control. When God speaks, and there's not a single person that, or a politician or Donald Trump, that could have stopped the October 7th war that broke out between Hamas and Israel, because God spoke that. I'm a bit concerned with a lot of things that I hear Trump saying. And I'm going to leave it there, because I will do the title called Trump's Revolutionizing Moment, where God will use Trump, and Trump is God's middleman to set up this whole thing. Because when God speaks concerning the Black Sea, concerning the war that broke out between the Russians and Ukraine, and concerning the war between Hamas and the nation of Israel, and I'm going to tell you what the Lord said. The Lord said they're weaponizing everything. They're completely weaponizing everything since 2020. Everything is being censored, and there's censorship. And if you think that's going to stop under Donald Trump's, watch, and under his, terms as president of the United States of America, newly elected, I got news for you. That's not going to happen, because God's going to fulfill the mandate of what he has been saying and what he has been speaking, especially concerning that we're closer than ever before to World War III. I want to make this very clear, because you see, there's so much prophetic pollution and prophetic prophesying, especially I have said over since 2020. Pastors that are not prophesying not only pollution, but speaking things in presumption concerning some of the things and concerning the time and season. And I have said over and over, the Lord did something, and look, this is not even on my mind, because actually for quite some time, the Lord periodically on a consistent basis came over and over and kept saying this verse, had me to recite this verse over and over, and he did it again just now. And that is 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 7, where it says that the end of all things is at hand. Look, and the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So this part 3 of the year of the Antichrist, God is making it very clear. The actual thing and the actual fact and the things that are going to happen is very simple. At some point, the church is removed very soon, pretty soon, and the Antichrist comes on the world stage. And I want to make that very clear. Then I talked about PowerPoint number 2, the time. And then the crackdown. There is going to be a major crackdown. And let me say this, because the Lord just showed me 2 months. There's actually, I believe, 2 months or 3 before Donald Trump is inauguration. And in that 2 months to 3 months, I can tell you that the globalists with the left, okay, with world leaders, with World Health Organization, with the World Economic Forum, and everyone affiliated to the left, Trust me, they got also things under their sleeve. They're about to do things that are about to blow your mind. And I know that they came out and say that they want to be able to pass the torch and do it in a very friendly way, in a way that promotes unity and that the country is unified. I'm talking about America, unifying America in the spirit of unity and pass the torch to Trump. But I got news for you. There's divine purpose and a divine reason why God showed me 2 months. Because in 2 months, you're going to have to circle this one. The globalists, the left, with the Antichrist. And I said that the world leaders are already taking instructions from the Antichrist and from the false prophet. They're going to do everything in their power, okay, to take it not only one step, but several steps higher. And I want to make that very clear, that the financial markets are going to collapse. There is going to be a global collapse. And I have said over in this telecast, I think once, twice, or 3 times, that Trump is God's middleman to the peace treaty. Not only Donald Trump is God's middleman to bring about peace in a peace treaty, but I believe what the Lord just said to me, you better circle this one, and I almost jumped out of my seat. God said the false peace treaty. Remember, there is first a false peace treaty. Then that peace treaty is broken, okay? Then come the true peace treaty. Keep in mind what the Lord just said. Because, look, I don't know who's on whose side when it comes to, I'm talking about people overall. Because we're in the time where we're living in a time of hatred, violence, and betrayal, and a great deal of manipulation when it comes to the courts. Not only when it comes to the courts, but corrupt judges. Not only corrupt judges, but corrupt leaders, corrupt celebrities. And remember, I said there are many in the hundreds in the body of Christ, leaders that are completely manipulating the body of Christ straight from the pulpit, that there is so much corruption in the world today that we are going to enter a new era, a new time, a new moment where the Antichrist, this is part 3. I called it the PowerPoint, the enticing moment, where he's going to have the ability not only to draw people, attract people, he's going to bring and tempt people, and in that tempting, the whole world will suck in and fall in and be seduced and deceived by the Antichrist. The world will love him. He will be a man of great eloquent speech, a man of great language, a man poised to dominate and control the next 7 years. Or has the great tribulation started, or has the tribulation period started? If you ask me, I don't believe the 7-year tribulation period has started yet, because I'm looking at the first 3 months of 2025. And I told you I got a title to do God's prophecy, first of 2025. I will explain. But if you ask me, has the 7-year tribulation period started? I don't believe so. I believe that we could be 90 days to 120 days, which basically puts us into the year 2025 and into the month of March, in the spring, where there are 4 feasts of the Lord. Remember the 4 feasts of the Lord. And I have made this very clear. I'm not going to say that we may be raptured in January and February or March. No, I'm not going to say that. But we, I believe, more than likely could be raptured in 2025. We're extremely, very close. Because I'm going to tell you and talk to you about the vision God gave me, an open vision the other day. And I will explain when I do that title, the vision. Now, this is the title, is the year of the Antichrist, the enticing moment. And enticing means having the effect, having, in other words, the ability to draw people in, the ability to, whatever the Antichrist, it becomes very attractive to you. And that's why I said we're entering a moment like the movie Fatal Attraction, where people are going to simply be put asleep by the devil. And matter of fact, the world is sound asleep right now. The believers are believing every single thing that they hear from the pulpit or everything that anyone is prophesying. And the Lord's concerned with that. And I want to make this very clear, that we need to understand the time, but there is coming. And I want to make this very clear. There is coming the global collapse and the global crackdown. I want to make that very clear. And what's coming, it's that rider on that white horse. I don't believe not a single minute or for a single second that God is going to delay things. And he said that he will no longer delay. Remember when I was in Hong Kong? But he will open up the scrolls and open up the 7 seals. Remember I said that since 2020? I believe that God is going to fulfill the very things that are in his heart. And he showed me and said to me the word closure. Because there is not a single individual that is going to move God's heart and God's spirit to delay for a minute. There's no delay. And Trump can't delay what God is already made up his mind to do. Not only him, but also any politician around the world, or any world leader, or anyone in government, or in parliament. God is about to bring about the final steps to the final mobilization. And then what you got is the 11th hour, the establishment, a new world order, the Roman Empire. And you're going to see, God almost spit this out. God said to me, Pope Francis. Now, I don't know what God is, why would he show me Pope Francis or bring up his name up again? Because I have said over and over that I believe that when God took me in that vision in 2020, Pope Francis is not the Antichrist. Pope Francis is the false prophet. I want to make that very clear. All right? Now, I also said that I want to go back, and the Lord is asking me. Now, let me say this. The Lord is giving me instructions to go back and talk a little bit, which I was going to save it for another day, for that title, Trump's Revolution, when everything is going to be revolutionized, and he's God's middleman. So I'm going to not only fully obey God, and God said he wanted me to go back and talk about this. I said that when Trump was in office, Trump not only moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, but Trump is the one that put together the Abraham Accord. And what I'm beginning to see is, and what I'm beginning to discern also, that what you need to understand what's going to happen in 2025, and what I'm beginning to see as far who comes into the picture in 2025 is the Saudi Crown Prince and Donald J. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Now, look, and God said something very, very clearly to me. Watch what the Lord said to me. They have been holding secret meetings with the Saudi Crown Prince. And they've been negotiating. That's what the Lord just said to me, the word negotiating. They've been negotiating with the Saudi Crown Prince. And remember that him and Jared Kushner are very close friends. They're good friends. And I want to make this very clear also what the Lord said. The Lord said that they've been meeting up, having secret meetings with Anthony Blinken. He's still the Biden administration, the Secretary of State. And what I want to say here is this, that you are in for the greatest rude awakening or has ever happened, because God is simply going to say to the world that whatever you hear any politician say or any world leader say, God just said to me to tell you that they are in God's time clock. Look what the Lord said. That just blew my mind away. God said that any world leader, that includes Satan is not a world leader. I want to make this very clear. That includes that fallen angelical being, Satan, and those 1/3 of those angelical demons with the giants and the Nephilims and the 4 that are in the Euphrates River, with world leaders, with the false prophet and the Antichrist. God's basically saying, everyone, let me make this bold statement, what God is saying. Everyone, it's on God's time clock. You know what he just said? Including the nation of Israel. That's why when I heard Trump talk the way he did the other day, and he'd been for quite some time promising world peace, talking about that there's not going to be war, the only thing that's going to break out, it's global war and a global collapse and a global trade war. I want to make that very clear. That will begin a nuclear arm race, and the nations are going to begin to focus and attack on each other's nuclear plants. I made that very clear. And God just said to me, atomic bombs. In this part 3 of the title, The Year of the Antichrist, point number 1, the actual. Point number 2, the time. Point number 3, the crackdown. And point number 4, the global collapse. And I'm going to do a telecast in which I want you to understand that when I do that telecast, you better be prepped and ready. Be on guard and look up, because this is going to happen a whole lot quicker, okay? The Lord said something to me concerning Elon Musk, and I will save that for another telecast. What the Lord said to me concerning Elon Musk. But in the title, The Year of the Antichrist, I spoke about also the challenge. I said also that one of the points I said that believers needed to be focused. I spoke from Proverbs 21:30. I spoke from Proverbs 25 verse 1 and 2. I spoke from Jeremiah chapter 9 verse 23 and 24. And what I want you to understand, I also spoke from Revelation chapter 6. I spoke from Revelation chapter 13 verse 14. I spoke from 1 John chapter 2 verse 18, and from Revelation chapter 13 verse 4. And what I want you to understand, that the glory of God is simply saying there is not a single beast, not a single man, not a single politician, not a single world leader, not even Lucifer, not even the Antichrist, not even Pope Francis, the false prophet. There is not a single individual that is going to delay things. God said everyone, the entire world, the entire galaxy, the entire universe, everything on this planet Earth, everyone is under God's time clock. And what I want to say this is to those Bible prophecy down in Dallas, Texas, and Austin, Texas, because they're already talking about that they're so blessed, so glad that God is came through, and that there's not going to be any censorship, that there's not going, especially when it comes to a two-state solution, because there will be a two-state solution. And then talking about that we're entering prosperity years. I want to make this very clear, that when you hear Donald Trump said that these are the golden years of America, I want to tell you, these are the golden years of the Antichrist, where the Antichrist will come on the world stage and he will simply control. I want to make that very clear. But the Lord will not only spare the saints, that's what he said to me. He will spare the saints and spare the believers. Now I'm going to begin to close with 1 John chapter 2 verse 18. It says, brethren or brother, beloved, that we need to understand that there have been many antichrists that have come into the world. But what you and I are going to see is the Antichrist. And God said to me, right before I said that, God's forecast. God is revealing his forecast. Not only God is revealing his forecast, God has been speaking concerning things, concerning America when it comes to TikTok, concerning not only TikTok, but concerning the biometric chips and concerning the global trade war, concerning this economic warfare, which God spoke to me back in 2010 in Singapore. And God is fulfilling everything. There is coming greater confusion and greater chaos. But there will be a peace treaty. And at the beginning of this telecast, God said, bad, and I told you to circle, is the false peace treaty. But God, in this moment, in this time, has spoken very clear that everyone is under God's watch, in God's forecast. I want to make that very clear. And let me send a stern warning to those down in Texas. Because you keep talking about there's not going to be a two-state solution. You keep talking about there's not going to be socialism and Marxism and communism. And I got news for you, that you're going to be quickly be caught off guard, because what's going to happen, that within the next 2 months to 3 months, there's going to be major escalation and major things are going to happen. And all of civilization, I have said all of humanity and every human being is simply in the bubble, and God has been talking about concerning the financial markets collapsing, all the markets collapsing, the digital currency, a digital ID, a digital passport, and look, a digital thing to show that you've been vaccinated. And let me say this again. God has made this very clear, and this is the final time I'm going to say it, and I'm going to close. In this part 3 of the year of the Antichrist, and that is this. God said that everyone, heaven, earth, below the earth, every single thing, including the 4 angelicals that are down in the Euphrates River, also the Nephilims and the giants, everything, every angelical, every human being, all of civilization, including the moons and the stars, the galaxy, the universe, every single thing, including the wind. God said to me, including the wind. And you know what the Lord just said? I want you to understand that the glory of God is simply saying, gear up, be ready, get prepped up, don't get passive, be on guard, become a watchman for the Lord in these final moments, final days, because simply civilization is going to go into a whole different level of chaos before that first peace treaty, which is a false one. I'm going to leave it right here in this telecast on Catch and Go, in this title, part 3 of the year of the Antichrist, the enticing moment where he simply seduces, deceives the entire world. And he not only seduces, entices, but he is a man of great speech, great language, a man of eloquent words, a man that can easily move the crowd, and the world is simply going to fall for the trap that is coming by the Antichrist. Because in part 3 of this title, the year of the Antichrist, I said the main PowerPoint is the enticing moment. The world will come under the control of the Antichrist. And for the second time, the grace of God showed me these words, God's forecast. Why would God show me again those words? There is divine purpose and divine substance behind that revelation. And that is that God is revealing and God is speaking loud and clear that God is saying the whole world, everything, heaven and earth and below the earth, is on God's time clock, and God revealing what's about to take place on the earth in the next 90 to 120 days. I leave it right here. May the Lord so richly bless you. Remember to click like, share, subscribe, hit on the bell to receive our latest telecast. And remember, I catch you on my next telecast of Catch and Go. God bless.